Hello, everyone. Back. Yeah, I didn't intend to skip so many weeks, or I guess stream days in a row. But I've been doing a lot of cool things, and it just it didn't quite get to a point where a thing was finished. Oh, there we go. See, I pre opened my comments laptop, but I didn't mute it. So, yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about. I want to talk a lot about this. Well, actually, no, I talked about this before. This is the IBM 5170, aka the IBM AT. I talked about that already, but I want to use it as a comparison between this and the clone 286 that I got over the vacation, over the holiday. Now I'm in deep. I'm in vintage computer stuff deep, and I feel like I'm sort of like a fish out of water. There's a lot of topics that I don't really have that good of a background on. I've talked about this before, but my computer experience kind of is the first real PC that I used was a Pentium 1. It was a Pentium Pro, which is eventually was a Pentium 2, but 200 megahertz, But Windows 95, Windows 98, that's where my computering started. So I was not old enough. This computer here, the IBM here, is older than I am, as well as the clone is older than I am too. So yeah, I've been just learning a lot, watching a lot of videos. Phil's Computer Lab. What's this channel? Adrian's Digital Basement, Necroware, all these channels, and it just kind of feels like there's a lot of smaller channels too. And I don't mean to like not include anybody, but vintage computer stuff is a lot more. It doesn't feel like there's. I mean, I could say this only because I've been in the retro modding scene, I suppose, for I don't know, since like 2017. So that's pretty active. But the advantage of retro console stuff, as you can see in my case here, is that there's only so many variations, right? There's an NES, maybe there's more than one motherboard revision, but for the most part, mods and stuff that people develop are universal for that system. And I can almost guarantee you that they're, without even looking it up, they probably made a lot more NESs, which is about probably the same time period, right? Like, when did NES come out? 85 or something like that? Mid 80s at least. About the same era as this 286, the IBM and the clone. So, but they probably made a lot more NESs because just the cost. I mean, this thing, IBM's new for business users would have been thousands, $3,000-$4,000, and that's a lot less than, or a lot more than an NES. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's difficult getting into vintage computers. There's a lot of information out there for looking at motherboards and things, and we can meander through that stuff if you want to. But it's difficult if you weren't there at the time, or if you don't have a lot of time to learn. It's very daunting and intimidating to get into vintage computer stuff, and that's a shame, I think, because the amount of electronic waste that is going just to electronic recyclers, I think is probably there's a lot of computers out there that I think could be saved and reused for gaming purposes, and that just kind of makes me sad. And I know you can play do DOS emulation stuff or whatever, but hey Belmont. I mean, saying, oh, I can just emulate DOS is just like saying, oh, you can emulate the video game. Like, it's not the same. Like, I appreciate the actual real hardware. I appreciate emulators too. I appreciate Mr. FPGA stuff. I appreciate Analog Pocket, but the vintage computer scene is not anywhere near as there's not as many people, I think, like focusing on developing stuff for it compared to computer console stuff. So I'm trying to learn a lot. It sort of feels like I'm collecting one of everything, one of every era. I don't yet have a 186 or an 8088, like an older computer, a computer older than this AT. This has a 286 CPU in it. I don't have anything older than that yet. Maybe some year I'll. Part of the problem is the cost. The things are very expensive, so I don't want to dive into buying stuff when I don't like really understand it yet. But I have been buying some things, so we'll kind of go into it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm collecting one of every kind of era and moving through it, and I think that's kind of neat. Just to kind of see, hey, what's possible on this platform, and do I recommend it? Would I recommend it to other people to go down that path for the money? So that's kind of. I hope I'm explaining my background about this stuff, because some people might be like, why are you talking about computers now when you've been talking about console stuff for years? Literally, like I've been making videos about console modding for years. But I just sort of recently realized that there's just, I had this IBM in my attic, and not a victim. Well, I suppose a victim in a way, but I have caused computers to go to recycling that now I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd kept them. And I understand, if they're rust buckets or something and they're dangerous to use or whatever, sure, recycle them. If like at a certain point, you need to have, it's no longer like, okay, just buy all the parts and connect it, and then it's the hard part is like the software. No, that's not a thing. The hard part is the hardware and the software. Even if you have seemingly perfect looking hardware, it could have a fault that you might only be able to discover if you're skilled at debugging hardware. So, hell yeah, vintage PC ARC, loving it. Yeah, depends on what you define computer as. Amiga. So that's the other thing too. I'll get back to the rest of your question. I would love an Amiga. I would like to go down that side too. That's very fascinating, and also like Tandy 1000 stuff. Like I've been learning a lot about history. I'm not really a history person normally, but I think it's key. Learning about the history is kind of key to learning how these things all are related, right? Like taking the baby steps from these older, vintage computers, you do learn like, okay, what's the reason for X, Y, or Z? I don't know. It's kind of like very painful process, because you really have to like, okay, this processor can do this, that, and this. It has these limitations for, it can only have this much memory or something. It's not straightforward, and that really depends on the operating system. DOS evolved over time and could do memory management later on and stuff. It's just insane amount of things to understand, and that puts a lot of perspective in the content that I watch. Somebody who's skilled like Adrian, that just, maybe they don't know everything, but they have enough, they know enough about it where they can kind of fix these things. And that's kind of, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but I aspire to do that. I aspire to be able to fix the hardware stuff. So, yep, Commodore 64. The problem is those computers are just, the price is prohibitive. Even new stuff, like if you wanted to, I was looking up an Amiga. There's a few Amiga, like a 6 or 500 or whatever replacement motherboards, right? So you can, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's open source, but you can build your own Amiga 500 board with the PCB and all the other components, kind of like the OpenTendo, where you could build an NES from scratch, but you need the NES, a real NES PPU and CPU to populate it or to get it to work. Same with the Amiga 500. There's like, I don't know, probably a dozen or more chips that are unique to the Amiga, that if you don't have an Amiga already, then you're pretty much screwed. But if you have an Amiga, if you have one that's not working, then you can harvest and move the chips over. So that's interesting stuff. But it's like, you're going to spin out the nose just to get all those little pieces, and you have to know that ahead of time. So it's not like, oh, you just did an NES and you can rip out the PPU and the CPU and then drop them in this OpenTendo board after you build it, and then it'll work. It's way more detailed to that. So, yeah, we got a ton of modern. Yeah, so that there are a lot of things, Leon, about there are some modern things, and there's a lot of projects that are sort of like monumental in getting them to work and to get people to care about them working now. So for example, I'm going to talk a little bit about XT IDE. I don't know a ton about the project, but I know that it is key to like getting larger, I'm using compact flash disks, but getting larger disks that were not era appropriate. I mean, not to say that obviously compact flash was not around in 85, but the size of the disks, it was not, they didn't plan that large capacity, so you just can't in the stock BIOS stuff. When you can, if you get XT IDE working, you can get larger disks to work. So there, yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to the point where I'm like, okay, for this era, here are some neat projects, maybe Flash Floppy and XT IDE and compact flash to IDE drives and things. You can get them working, and you would want it's not super complicated. I mean, maybe it is expensive-ish, but you can feasibly build a machine and get it working and be able to transfer files without any of the original media, which, I mean, some people might view that as piracy, but like, let's be real. I mean, most of that stuff, I mean, magnetic floppy disks don't last forever, and they can't last forever. So even if you own the original media, it could just be dead. And what does that give you? The actual real media. So that's why I'm super grateful for archive.org. That's a discussion for another time, but like it's critical. Yeah. And that's, Leon, I don't want to open drama. I kind of understood. I think that you posted, Leon, about that project that was trying to make a Sega, what's that? The Genesis and the 32X, whatever, that all-in-one board. You said a comment, something like, I would have rather you made documentation for the original boards instead, or in addition to, or something. And I know Zach's he went kind of crazy, but I not crazy, but I can see both sides of that argument. But I understood what you were saying, and I appreciate when I stumble across good documentation, or best documentation is the original documentation from the original developers. Second best is something like there's this website. Let me pull it up. Oops. Oh God. There's this website here, the RetroWeb. This you can, more often than not, you can type in a motherboard and it will come up with all usually the original manual, what chips are, what processor and memory is compatible with it. So sites like this, which is not original documentation, this is amazing for preservation and stuff. So the Neptune, yeah. So I kind of understood what you're saying. Maybe the wording was wrong, but I understood. It makes a lot more sense. And now, yeah. So I won't stay on that point, but okay. So let's, I guess we'll hop over to the bench. I kind of want to talk about the IBM first, and then we're going to switch over to the clone machine. I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about what I'm stuck on, what I think I'm stuck on, and I'm kind of waiting for parts. So that's where I think I'm waiting for parts. It was working for a minute, and then it stopped. It stopped working. So I'll show you what I mean. Turbo Express, there's no schematics for it. We don't know what half the components are. When fixing dead Turbo Express, we guess the parts that go there. Yeah. So I mean, I don't necessarily know if you can get upset with somebody who's building their own. For all intents and purposes, I think that person is just building the stuff that they want, right? So you can't say, hey, stop doing your personal project. Although maybe somebody mentioned that they're trying to sell them or something. So it gets into weird, you know, are they a business? Are they not a business territory? But, you know, it's not anybody else's responsibility to do these things. But yeah, like, I'll tell you in a little bit about this board. I have this, a board that's like, I would love to have a schematic for that, because if I get bored when I'm older or something and I want to like, hey, I have all the original chips to this board, but it's just corroded. If I had the original schematic, I could just design a board and build it, like rip all the components out that are worth saving. So it's sort of like open Tendo, a motherboard, just for fun, you know. So like, and that only happens if you have the original, if you have the schematic, or I guess you could do it, you know, look at each individual chip and see what it does. But like, you can't reverse engineer everything if the chips are gone, if the chips are corroded, if you can't test what the chips actually, the values of the original values of like capacitors, or if the capacitors leaked and they're not what the original specs are. So it's very, you know, yeah. You ever check out, I did check out Blake Stone. That game is kind of hard, and yeah, I would love to get back into it. It is like a lot. It reminds me, so I only really had experience with Doom, and Doom 2. I never played Wolfenstein. No, not Wolfenstein. It's not really like, well, okay, maybe it's like Duke Nukem 3D sort of. It looks sort of like it sort of reminds me of, what's that Bungie game, Marathon? It's like, it's got that kind of vibe. It's got Doom vibes, and it's got like the Duke Nukem vibes. All together. It's like, yeah, it's a lot, and just, yeah. I think I couldn't get, I don't know. There was some hang up. Like I wanted to play it more, but I couldn't for some reason. I don't know. I'll have to get back into it. But that's on the good old the good old gateway there. So, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll wrap that up. All right, so let's go over to the bench, and I want to talk. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay, this should work. There we go. Okay. I've been messing around with my setup. I actually, before we move on, this thing here is a monitor arm, but I used to use it behind my monitors here, and I mounted my mirrorless camera behind my monitor, or behind my monitors. So I stopped using it because I don't know, because I wasn't making the weekly Mono News videos. I didn't need my camera really. I just have this C920 webcam that eventually I'd like to upgrade. But so I figured it would be a cool way to, instead of having like a tripod on the floor in my way here, I could just use it to mount my camera on. So the music is cool. Belmont, Doom, Wolfenstein back in the day. Marathon was, yeah. I only played Marathon after I played Halo because I learned about Bungie and why do you do this, camera? It's my camera is not liking me. Wait a minute. Why is it just shutting off? Battery exhaust. Okay, battery exhausted. It's plugged in. Oh, you know what? It isn't plugged in. Wait a minute. I can plug it in. My bad. Hopefully this doesn't. I hope this doesn't set us back that far. Okay, it's plugged in. Now the thing is, will it? Oh gosh, this is annoying. Oh god, this might ruin the whole night. I'm sorry. I'm getting there. It's happening. I don't know if I can. I don't have a dummy battery. I hope it doesn't. Okay. Okay, well, I think it has the ability to run just right off the charger, so I hope. Okay. Boom. All right, cool. Okay, so we looked at this already. Off topic, but have you checked out the Analog Pocket update? No, I did not look at the. I know they did something with the display things that they with OpenFPGA, so you can use filters or something. I didn't have a chance to look at it. Honestly, my Pocket has been in a box and I haven't really used it, but yeah. Okay, so Yeah, so we looked at a couple weeks ago. We looked at this IBM. Um, I do want to like. I want this machine. I guess I'll get into what parts it has or what I would like to build it. This build, I guess, what I would like this build to stay as. But I've been trying to get a compact flash to IDE adapter to work in it. So let me just talk about. So this was in my mom's attic. My dad used to have a shop, and I believe he didn't really remember who originally had this computer, but I think it had something to do with it. It ran some programs for a CNC machine. So there's this giant, like, probably about the same size as my room, which is like 10 by 12 maybe, huge CNC machine. And this computer, I believe, would send programs to it or something like that. They would use a machine to send. So I think that's what this computer was originally used for. So I didn't have a use for it then after they got rid of it. So it kind of just sat in my parents' attic. I disassembled everything. I took the motherboard out. I took all the cards out. And then once I realized it wasn't really, it was probably, I don't know. It was a while after I'd gotten it, so I really wasn't, and it wasn't compatible with any modern equipment. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just put it away. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I didn't really clean the case that much, but nothing is rusty. The only thing. Yeah, I mean, it's not rusty. It just has to. Oh, the top is the top cover, which slides over the top here, the top is kind of scratched and scuffed, but inside here is not. So that's where it matters. Okay, so so this is the IBM AT. What's special about the IBM is it was the first of the IBM PCs to have a 286 CPU. So, you can find somebody who's way more versed in the history of CPUs to tell you where this falls. But I guess with the original IBM PC, the 5150 had just an 8086, which so colloquially the 186, people call it. Well, after the fact, I suppose. So this is the next generation Intel CPU afterwards, and the original the 186 was clocked at like 4.8 or something megahertz. The original 286 machines were 6 megahertz, so it was a little bit faster, but this is at 8 megahertz 286. Do you have any of those Real Magic cards from back in the day? I'm not sure what Real Magic is. Let me just Google it quick. Sorry, I'm Googling. I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. So maybe if you could find an article about what that is, I can. Yeah. So this is at least two of these cards in here are the original. Well, okay. So let me start with. I kind of want to take things out, and I hope this is like. Well, I don't really want to take this card out because I don't want to break it. Okay, so I'm not going to take this card out, but I'll talk about it in a second. I'm just trying to think of what is important to kind of talk about with the original computer here. Yeah, I mean, the only thing, it sort of relates to the clone clone PC in a little bit, but it does have a socket for a math coprocessor. So I think certain CAD programs, I'm not sure if any games really used it, but this would accelerate some math functions. So sort of like floating point stuff. Real Magic was basically a way to run really high quality FMV and video on a slow 286. Oh, interesting. Huh. No, I've never heard of that before. That's neat. No, I don't have any of those. Nope. The only original cards from this machine I think that are worth talking about are these two. So this is probably the more interesting of the two. This is an original IBM CGA card. So it says color graphics here. And what's neat is it has two plugs. It has a CGA port here, and it has composite video output. Normally CGA output through the CGA port into a CGA monitor, so it's different than VGA. Just for ha-has, this is we'll talk about this ATI Wonder 16, but it has actually both. Well, this is technically EGA too, but EGA, so it has only 2 rows of pins, so 9 pins, versus the whatever, the 15 or whatever, the VGA port. So these are not pin compatible. You wouldn't be able to get, you'd have to have a monitor that either had this or VGA. I think that might be SVDL. That's kind of neat. But through the CGA port, if you had a CGA monitor, you can get 4 colors. Ooh. I mean, at the time, this is primarily, these machines are primarily for like word processing, or, I mean, I guess, like I said, you can interface with machines and things. But color was not necessarily the purpose of, yeah. But what's interesting about the composite video is that certain games supported a specific composite output mode that used composite artifacting to generate 16 colors. So in some circumstances, the composite video output is actually kind of better than CGA. So that's what's interesting about the color CGA card. I don't have an EGA card. That was sort of the next step up. Also, the original of those was also made by IBM, but companies started making clones of the IBM parts also. So having a real one is kind of like, I don't know, not a flex, but I don't think it's that important, but you know, maybe they operate better. I'm not really sure. The other card, I guess that's kind of important for this computer, is this. And this is just one of potentially a bunch that you could use, but this is like a RAM expansion board. I guess they're also called like I/O boards or Super I/O or whatever, because they usually came with, you know, additional ports. So I think this is what, a printer. Does it say on there? I don't know. Printer, parallel port maybe here, and then this is a serial maybe for a mouse or something. So if you wanted a mouse, you'd have to have a card, because there's only one. The only port in the back of this machine is the keyboard port. Everything else is basically cards. There's no hole. There's only one hole in the back for the mouse. So yeah, but this was kind of important because at this in this age, I suppose, there was a limitation. You couldn't. Oh, battery exhausted. Mother. That sucks. Can I? Hold on, guys. Sorry. This is my bad for not charging this thing. What if I plug it into this instead? Sorry for the black screen. That's annoying. I didn't have the battery plugged in. So it's basically just draining till dead. Oh, you know what? I have an idea. I have another battery that may have... oh, well, I have to take it off of this. Do this, do that, 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 that. Okay. Hello? Oh, okay. So this is half charged. Okay, good. I have another battery. I forgot that I had that. But it's also plugged into the outlet now. So, hey, Level 1. Are you going to buy the... Yeah, if anything, I would build a SNES Stang and a Nest Stang. Those projects are sweet. I mean, I haven't really talked about it that much or got looked into them, but both of those look really cool. Like, tiny DIY semi-friendly original consoles. That's really cool. Notably, there are a few games that utilize this, and it was almost like how we use a GPU now, but for video. Return to Zork, Flash Traffic. Oh, for the real steady card. That's a real Magic card. Neat. A game that had Cobra Kai guy in it. It actually would do this wild thing where it passed audio through your sound card and also video through your video adapter with pass-through cables. Neat. Yeah, level 1. I'm interested in those projects for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so the name of the game was trying to get up to. So back to the RAM expansion, trying to get up to at least 640K of RAM. Now here's we're gonna get into the clone computer in a little bit that has a megabyte of RAM, and I'm not 100% sure if the other RAM beyond 640. So the IBM AT here has 512. You can kind of barely see them here, and that's not really going to help you. But there's these socketed chips down here. Each of those chips is 64K, and they add up to 512K. And then this single row here is another 128 or whatever it is to get up to 640K. So that's essentially the only reason I use this. Is that? No, it's not. Okay. That's essentially the only reason I use this card is to get the extra memory up to 640K. It does have slots to add additional, and if you maxed out this card with, so you can either put 64K chips or 256K chips. So if you put all 256K, you could put up to, I want to say it's 3 megabytes? 3 megabytes of RAM, which I don't necessarily know if with DOS that you would care about that at all. Later on with Windows 3.1 and stuff, or Windows 3 and Windows 3.1, you might care about more memory, but I don't know how. I don't think they would run very well on the 286, at least not this one. So this kind of lives in here all the time just for the purpose of adding more memory up to the cap of 640K. That's also known as base memory, base RAM. So I did a search on YouTube and nobody seems to be covering it. And thanks for reposting that. Yeah, well, I just saw it on Twitter, and I know that who was into it. I can't remember who I saw posted about it, but yeah, someone's designing a case maybe or something for it. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Yeah. So in order to get this machine back to like original condition, which I have so I have the hard drive, and it had two different 5 1/4 inch drives. One was a 320 or 360K, which is like the standard for 5.5. But then it had the high density 1.2 megabyte drive as well. So those will live over here. But then in this huge section, and I showed, you can look at the last live stream where I looked at this thing, you can see them, I had them out. Had a huge hard disk that went here. They're called full size because it's, imagine two full, what we call full size, right? So like this is what later on became quote unquote full height, right? This is actually half height. Full height was the whole thickness, of two of these together. So like the original IBM 5150 had 2 full height bays, but you could put 4 drives in, 4 half height drives in it if you wanted to. So that's kind of a Snapple fact. But they were not IDE hard drives, they were MFM. At least this one was an MFM drive. And the IDE, or integrated drive electronics, the integrated drive electronics part was, this is an example of one. I actually have a Western Digital one downstairs, but this is an MFM card. So it's not a hard card. That was a different thing. Hard cards would be, you would have a slottable card that would have a whole hard drive on it. That's a hard card. This is an MFM card that, and what's also interesting is MFM is also the technology of the floppy disks. So actually, so you could put 2, I guess you could probably have up to 4 because each of these channels could probably support 2 drives, right? So you might have A and B floppy on one, and then your MFM hard drive on the other one here. But then you'd also need to have, for the drives themselves, you need to have one additional cable. So, but essentially this card has 2 floppy connectors, what we consider, modern floppy drive connectors. But you could use them for the hard drives as well. So you could either use one for the floppy and one for the drives. But you need this. You would need this to, not only would you need this to connect your hard drive, but in the case of this particular computer, the AT, you actually need one to boot the computer with the original BIOS. This is a Type C. If you know anything about ATs, this is Type C, which is like a later model. So that's why this is at 8 megahertz, is because it's the later revision. The BIOS, the later BIOSes in this computer would not boot unless you had an MFM card connected. So a sort of side story, back when I was doing my NES RGB, so if you don't know what NES RGB is, inside of a Nintendo or an NES is the CPU or the PPU chips, and they kind of look like they're these dip packages, right? So they kind of look like this. And to do that mod, you need to desolder the chip, the dip chip, and then put a kind of a board in between. I practiced desoldering a dip chip on the original MFM card for this computer. So, and I must have thrown it out afterwards because I never found the remnants of it. But I found a post on Facebook that I posted, hey, look at me, I desoldered a dip chip on Facebook like in 2017. So that's how I kind of carbon dated when I did my original, when I first got into modding, retro modding. But this is a different brand, no-name brand, or maybe it's this is the chipset, this VLSI. I'm not sure what brand it is, but I have a Western Digital one downstairs. The computer literally would throw error messages if you did not have one of those cards installed. So you either had to use an MFM card or you just leave it in there, even if the drive was not working anymore. You'd have to leave the computer in there, or a card in there, because the BIOS, the computer's BIOS, was expecting it. So that's kind of the first frustrating thing. You can install Windows 3.1 on this PC and attempt to run very early CGI software if you get the math coprocessor. I had one program for 3.1 with ray tracing. I think this also have almost the same floppy you got there on your 98 system. Yeah, it's a TIAC. This I would like to get this working on my 98 machine too, and I'll talk about this later. But I want to put this drive. This is a high density drive. My girlfriend's father, who I got the other computer that we're going to talk about in a minute, he used to subscribe to this software of the month club thing. So he has a lot of these 5 1/4 inch discs that I would love to see what is on it. And I think he just kept subscribing and not really using the software. He just like had the software in his house. And so I'm like, okay, I'll take that. And I have all of that. I have 2 stacks. And if you can see, it says 1 of 19. So I have all 19 of this run. So if they're working, I want to see, what's on it. And then I have another set of that. So that's why I want to put this in my gateway PC. So what you can do to get around the requiring of an MFM card with these IBM AT boards, and probably the easiest way around it is to actually just swap out the BIOS. So there's these 2, you can kind of probably barely see them here. Oops, I'm trying to actually get out of here. I don't have the original, I have the original BIOS chips, but not up here to show you. But so what I ended up doing was I ended up buying this, what is it called? XGECU? I don't know. This black, some people call it the T48 flasher. So I bought this EEPROM flasher. And I bought some EEPROMs because the original ones were not EEPROMs. They were just The original ones were not EEPROMs. You would have to erase them with a eraser, EEPROM eraser. But I bought some EEPROMs, which were electronically erasable ROM chips. And a lot of people recommend this quad-tel BIOS, but there's a few of them. There's an award BIOS, there's whatever. But so these are kind of drop-in sort of replacements for the IBM BIOS. And there's some interesting features beyond, you wouldn't need to run an MFM card, but with the original IBM AT and all the other IBMs, you would need to run, essentially you would need to run a BIOS floppy disk, right? It didn't have the BIOS like we think of a BIOS, like an actual program that you configure your computer that's built into the computer. It wasn't built into the computer. It was a separate piece of software that you'd had to run to configure your PC. So these aftermarket BIOSes would do away with that. They would have their own set of programs, and obviously they'd get around the limitation of needing the MFM card. So that was kind of my step one. Get the EEPROM programmer. So this is all the stuff I've done over my break. Get the EEPROM programmer. It's actually pretty easy to program these, or to actually flash the chips. But, it might be an interesting some year video. I don't know when I'm going to start making YouTube videos again, but that's an interesting, maybe a video about like how to use an IBM PC in 2023 or 2024. So, Giga Chad. Nice. So, so basically, that was the first step, was to get the EEPROM programmer to put this updated BIOS so that I would not have to use an MFM card anymore. So that got rid of the MFM card. But if you don't use the MFM card, you lose your floppy connection, and there's no IDE integrated on the motherboard. There's nothing integrated on the motherboard except for the keyboard, and the ISA slots. So this card, which is stuck in here now, I have to say that these cases are really well built, and the fitment is really nice, right? Like how the board sits in relation to where the cards, connect back here. The computer that I'll break out in a minute is absolutely terrible. I feel like I'm gonna break every card that I put in there, and then also when I screw it in here, it's like way misaligned. So yeah. So yeah, that's the good thing about this computer is that it is, as opposed to the good thing about this computer as opposed to the IBM PC, the 5150, or the XT, the 5160, is that the AT, the 5170, has 16-bit ISA slots, right? So 8-bit is just the one connector, but when you add the second length, that gives you 16-bit connection. I think, long story short, that just means that you get a faster connection. You can have faster speeds of connected devices. But that allows for 16-bit IDE cards, which are kind of common later on. But because they were 16-bit IDE, or 16-bit ISA, you could use more modern, like this one's probably from 1990. The other one I have is even later than that, I think. But it's back, it works because this is ISA slots and 16-bit ISA slots. So that gives you your floppy connection and your IDE port. But again, these are also multi-IO, whatever, so they have other connections, printer and keyboard and things. So yeah, I'm just gonna take a drink of water. So yeah, I have two of these now, and I thought at first, okay, so step one to being able to use the IDE cards, is updating the BIOS, but there is still a limitation on how big of a hard drive that you can have. So in theory, if you find small enough compact flash modules, like, I don't even know what is appropriate. 500 megabytes is probably big. So maybe like 20 megabyte, 30 megabyte compact flash cards, that might work out of the box. But if you want to use the stuff that's available now, 2 gigabyte. I have a 2 gigabyte card. Like I first for the other computer, I bought this, and this was a mistake. I bought this like SanDisk Extreme card, 32 gigs. Like it's too big. It's not compatible with the size limitations of the old BIOSes and things. So I don't have the XT IDE card here currently. It's in the other computer, so I'll get to that. But the XT IDE project is essentially it's another little card, and I didn't buy you can get a couple of them. Actually, well, yeah, let me get into that. So, long story short, you need XT IDE also loaded to be able to use larger compact flash cards. So that's what I did with this computer. However, it wasn't working in the beginning. You know what? Let's just bring out the clone machine now, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and kind of talk about how it wasn't working in the beginning, and then how I got it to work. So goodbye, IBM. This thing weighs a ton, and it doesn't even have the original components in it. The hard drive and the disks and things. It's just the steel is bad. Okay. So dun da da da. Oh god. This is still heavy, even though it's. So this is the my girlfriend's dad's. The model is DTK is the company, also known as wait a minute, Data Technologies Corp, I guess, DTC. That's another name for this company, but DTK. It's the DTK Tech 1230 is the model number of this computer. But these are kind of clones of the original IBM computers. Kind of took over pretty quickly because IBM used off-the-shelf parts, and people reverse engineered the BIOS. So you'd have clones basically of the whole system. Okay, so it's the same depth. The case is the same depth this way. It's probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches shorter. So like the IBM would go out of here. This computer is a little more. It's like it's like micro ATX or whatever compared to full size. Yeah, there's just so much room for activities now. Yeah, so it has. This is an IBM 286 clone, essentially. So it has all the same functionality. Actually, it's better functionality. First of all, it has a 286. It looks a little different. The other one is a ceramic chip, which I like the look of the ceramic 286, but this is a 12 megahertz. The other one is 8 megahertz, and the original ones are 6 megahertz, 286. This is a 12 megahertz, so this is double the original speed on this chip. This one is made by Intel, but... So before I get into XT IDE, because that's pretty important to understand, and I'll talk about the rest of the parts in here, let me show you what I had to do to get this to the state it's in now. The power supply was okay, and it works fine. Probably won't work forever, but I opened it up before I even powered it on. I opened it up and cleaned it, and I didn't see any explosive caps or anything like that. So yeah, and I cleaned it and stuff, so that's fine. I'm not going to use any of the original drives right now, but it's got the flash floppy and the compact flash drive in here. There's a third half-height slot, so I could put one of those, I could probably put that TX drive in there if I wanted to. But this computer also came with 2 floppy drives and a half-height hard drive, MFM drive as well. So it's a couple of years later, but it was essentially the similar parts. Yeah. So I feel like I was going to talk about something. Oh, yeah. So the major problem with this particular computer when I first got it is this bad boy. And this is public enemy number 1 when it comes to this era of computer parts, computers. There's no safe way really to hold this. This is a Varda battery. and it is extremely corroded. This, I desoldered it, but there was, and I'll show you the original board. So this is the original board in that PC. So the model of this motherboard is a PTM 1230C, and actually I want to see if that is on the other board. PTM, oh it is. So it's made by DTK, but it's called PTM 1230C. If anybody's watching this in the future, and this is where that battery was located. And just look at the devastation. I desoldered 2 chips. I just needed to see what was underneath them because they looked they were very, very bad. And keep in mind, this has already been washed with vinegar and soap and water a couple of times now, and this is how it looks still. So it would be okay-ish. And actually, the replacement board also had a little bit of corrosion, but it was only located around here where the battery was. So I still may have to do some repair in this area once I get a replacement battery. But it is everywhere. Almost everything down here goes over here this way, this row of resistors, toast. And I don't mean like, you might think that you could easily, desolder all these things, clean it off, and then resolder things. But the problem when you get to corrosion this bad is, one, it gets under the silk screen. So you can see actually the traces underneath the silk screen are corroding. And actually there's a section here where you can start to see that there's just traces that are just gone, like they're just dissolved. But also, like, you can't solder anymore to these pads. Like here, this whole chip, this chipset chip here, is just you can't. It's just all corroded on all 4 sides are bad. It got up to this chip over here. But what's interesting is this is a AMD 286. So maybe I should desolder that. I don't think the CPU is bad, or I don't think the corrosion got up that far. But just unfortunately, I didn't ever even power it on. I just knew it was not going to work well. So that's why I'm saying maybe some year, if I thought enough about it, I could rebuild this board, like make another board or figure out what's actually wrong with it. But once you get corrosion under the solder mask or whatever, how do you fix that? You'd have to like scrape all the solder mask off, fix the traces, and it's just toast. But I was lucky enough to find the same exact board, same specs and everything on eBay. So it also had a Varda, or the Varda battery. It also had a little bit of corrosion. I can't really show you because it's underneath here. So right now there is no battery in this computer. So every time I boot it, I have to go into the BIOS and reset all the settings. But then once it's powered on, it will stay that way, which is fine. It's inside the ISA slot. Yeah, it's toast. Yep. The ISA, if it was just the ISA slots, that's fixable because you could just replace that stuff, but it's just not good. So I had some fun desoldering some of those chips, and what's kind of cool about these some of these things are these are surface mount. I mean, this is 80 something, 80 at the latest, maybe 89, but I took the chips out. The BIOS chips would tell us. I mean, these say 87 on the chip up here and on the sticker. So let's say it was 87. This board is built. Some of these are surface mount chips, like this chipset chip, because there's no through holes here. I mean, there's here for the CPU, but here it's surface mount, and so it kind of looks like it might be through hole, but it has these really cool. I don't have a great example. But like it kind of looks like they're surface mount chips, but they bend, or the through hole legs, but they like bend over and flip up. So it's kind of cool and innovative that they can use kind of surface mount before surface. Well, I mean, there are some surface mount stuff in this era, but hopefully that makes sense. Like they didn't through hole solder that, they soldered it to the surface, which is cool. So rip that first board, but thankfully I have this board and I think it's mostly working. So So let's talk about the difference between the AT and this computer, the clone computer. So the board is pretty much the same size. It might be a little bit shorter, but obviously IBM AT is where AT and eventually ATX came from, the standard. So it's a sort of standard size ATX. I probably could, or AT, I mean, I could take this board out and put it in the IBM computer and be able to run it, right? Because it's the same layout, or same, holes and things. Other differences, obviously I talked about the CPU already. It's got the 12 megahertz 286. It is not, it's not a socket, so I don't think you can remove this chip and replace it. You can't upgrade it really. But the other kind of cool thing, and you can this has the math coprocessor installed. This one is a IIT 2C87/10. I think that's the /10 is either the bus speed that it's compatible with, or like the time. Like usually when you look at RAM chips, the RAM chips have the nanoseconds of the access speed in nanoseconds, so like faster or smaller nanoseconds is faster. I don't know. I'm not really sure here, but this computer can run up to 12 megahertz. It has the full 1 megabyte of RAM on the board, so I don't need a RAM expander in this thing. So it doesn't just have the 512 that the IBM AT has. It has double that, but 640K is really what's usable. I guess in DOS and things like that, it's kind of in the context of 640K. Anything above 640K, or at least from 640K to 1 megabyte, is reserved by the system to shove stuff into. So that's why I'm kind of confused, because the IBM, my AT, obviously you can load stuff from ROMs into the memory, but I'm not sure where that is on the AT. Whereas I know for a fact this has 1 megabyte. So from 640 to 1 megabyte, you can load ROM stuff like the XTIDE. I think maybe it loads there. I'm not 100% sure. Or maybe it's just extra and it doesn't really take advantage of it. But anyways, it has more memory and it's built into the, built on the board. They are socketed, so that's kind of nice, but yeah. What else? Obviously, it has its own BIOS, custom BIOS, but it is essentially an AT compatible, right? So anything that the original IBM AT was meant for, this computer could handle also. It doesn't have as many 16-bit slots, ISA slots. It only has 4, and then 4 8-bit slots, whereas the AT has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 8-bit slots and only 6 16-bit slots and 2 8-bit slots. Yeah. So this has the AT has more higher speed slots. So I don't know. Which you might run into problems if you need you need the RAM card, and you need a graphics card, and you need a ISA slot, or a IDE card, I mean. So yeah. So this only has, so basically this computer won't need the RAM card that the AT did, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's built into the board. But we still need a graphics card. Now this is a little bit of a jump, although kind of not really for the era of this computer. If this was 87, it really could have gone either way. And I think, so this was the card. The card that's in here now is the original card that was in the system when I got it, but it's a clone. I believe this is a clone, or not a clone, but like this is an AT. Literally, this is an ATI. This was made by ATI. This is one I bought on eBay. So this is a 16-bit ISA VGA card, but it also is kind of backwards compatible with EGA, right? Because it has an EGA slot or EGA port, but it also is for VGA. So it's EGA is what, 256 colors or 16 colors, I think maybe with EGA, and then VGA is like 256. But this is kind of a, there's no brand name, but I do see it's a Seng. It has a Seng Labs chip here, so I guess it's a Seng brand. But it is also a 16-bit VGA card. So this card is like a knockoff one, I guess. It's not. It also has socketed RAM chips, but it doesn't have all the RAM that the ATI one that I had has all the RAM chips populated. But I think that there's a problem with both of these VGA cards, and I'm hoping that there are some vintage PC experts that might be able to help, hopefully. But we'll get to that. So I'm going to put the ATI card in here because I want to show you a problem I'm having with it. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about see, the fitment of these ISA slots is terrible. Hate them. Absolutely hate them. So these are like, if I look at the IBM AT, the real one, the 16-bit ISA slots are one solid piece, even though they have two slots in them. The part is all one piece. Yeah, it's not two separate connectors. On the clones here, there are two separate connectors. So there's the 8-bit part and the end here, and then there's a little stubby thing that they soldered on this half. So that probably will cause a lot of issues with cards not fitting well or potentially getting damaged over time, like this edge here, or the gap in between here, the key, or this end, like kind of crazy. I could see how they cheaped out. But my girlfriend's dad said that this computer was not cheap when he bought it. He said he spent $3,000 then too, whatever, 87 or whatever. So kind of crazy that this is what you got for your money for in 87 or whenever you bought it. Okay, so that's the VGA card here, and I can actually, let me connect the VGA cable because we're going to power it on in a minute. So that's the good part about VGA, is I can actually display it. I don't have a CGA monitor, and well, I'll talk about some projects. If we have some time at the end, I'd like to talk about some future projects that I want to work on. That one of them is an adapter for CGA to be able to display it. But yeah, we'll get there. So that's the VGA graphics card is in there. This is a different but the same idea. It's another 16-bit IDE or 16-bit ISA IDE card. This one is made by, I don't know who it's made by, but it's got a WinBond chip on it, chipset, or yeah. Oh no, never mind. This is a Gold Star Prime 2 chip. That's not the brand. I think that's just the chip, but the chipset or the BIOS, whatever it is. But yeah, but it's the same deal. It has both a floppy connector and an IDE connector, so that I can connect my CF to IDE stuff and be able to store stuff. The last thing that's kind of chilling over here, and this is pretty much, well, if you've seen XT IDE cards before, you'll probably notice that they may not look like this, because this isn't necessarily an XT IDE. The XT, well, so okay, first of all, what is XT IDE? It is I guess a ROM, some kind of program that gets run from memory, but it kind of adds additional functionality to an IBM compatible to be able to read drives larger than a certain size. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I have a 2 GB compact flash drive in here, and it sees all of it fine in DOS, or I can utilize it all. I suppose it didn't explode. So essentially, it's XT IDE itself is just the software to enable IBM compatibles to be able to access the larger hard drive sizes. Now, and some other things too, but yeah. Now, this actually might work in my gateway because I was having problems. Like I said, I originally wanted to install Windows 98 on this 32 gigabyte compact flash card, but this is too big for Windows 98 to see. I think the limitation with, or no, I think it's just the chipset. So like, I think Windows 98 has ability to access up to like 120 gigabytes or something, but you'd have to have a more modern BIOS and chip, like an actual board that could support that. So like, this is a Pentium 1. The gateway is a Pentium 1. It couldn't, it freaked out. It did not like this being inside the CF slot. Versus like, all I changed was the size of the drive. I put this 2 gigabyte drive in there and it worked. So yeah, some computers have incompatibilities with larger sizes. So yeah. So this thing, normally you see these alongside, like basically it has the compact flash adapter kind of built into this. This one is just the BIOS, really. It's just not a BIOS. It has an EEPROM on here, and it just loads the XT IDE software when the computer boots. So it really serves no other purpose. This is just it's just from Low-Tech, and it's called the ISA ROM board, but it's essentially just a way for you to load arbitrary software at boot up. So over here, you can choose a memory location, because sometimes you can have conflicts, like if certain things, like the video card has ROM, like it loads into memory, and if you had, I don't know, a network adapter or something, it might load into memory. And so you need to be able to control what memory location the ROM chip loads into. So that's what these things here does. But for all intents and purposes, this card is really nothing but a way to load this what's on this ROM. I know there's, I think Necroware says that you can use a network card. Sometimes network cards just had free or open ROM chips, like sockets, or you could take the original network card's ROM out of it and put in an XT IDE. So that's another alternative, because these are kind of expensive for what they are, for how much I know, or how little I know this board costs to manufacture. This was like $35. Like, that's brutal. They're making a killing on this. If someone reverse engineered this, or they open sourced it, like, I don't understand why it would cost $35. There's nothing on here that costs that much. I mean, okay, sure, we'll go back to the BOM cost is not a project thing, but this is I don't know. That's crazy. That's way too much for what this thing is. But yeah. But normally you can see them integrated. So this is an 8-bit. It doesn't need to be more than 8-bit. It doesn't need to be the 16-bit AT to load the ROM, because that's all you're doing is loading the ROM. But sometimes you see these XT IDE cards with both a spot for a EEPROM to load the XT IDE BIOS or software, but it also integrates the compact flash adapter. And usually they kind of put the compact flash card in a slot in the back, so you can just put it in the slot and access your card from the back without, kind of you don't need any more cables, and it's fine. I have a cable mess, but you could theoretically not have cable mess. But that is you're only limited to the 8-bit speed with that CF XT IDE. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah. So that's the reason I chose to not do that, is because you can just get a 16-bit IDE card and get the faster 16-bit bus speed, and then still have the benefits of XT IDE with just this ROM loader thing. So I got this a while ago, a few weeks ago, and I was using the XT IDE, I'm saying. So I got the XT IDE card a while ago, and I was originally trying to use it on the IBM, because I got the IBM and this card before I got this clone computer. So and I couldn't get it to work. When you get this board, I suppose there's nothing in the ROM. There's nothing loaded in it. But the XT IDE site has the firmware or the BIOS files, whatever, and it has this XT IDE CFG config program. And in the beginning, I thought it was just okay. I need to flash the XT IDE onto this ROM so that it will work. So I used this chip in my programmer in the T24, right? And I flashed it, no problem. Put it in here, it doesn't work. I put it in, I messed around with the memory locations, doesn't work, nothing, didn't work at all. In the other computer, not the same thing. It would not have worked in this computer either. To use XT IDE to load it, I guess you need to run that XT IDE config on the machine. So what I ended up doing was, or on any machine, it didn't necessarily have to be the machine that it's going to run on, but it needed to be loaded through that XT IDE CFG software or program. So I had to put a flash floppy image. So I made a floppy disk image and loaded it on a flash floppy that basically just contained the XT IDE AT firmware, so the AT version, and that XT IDE CFG. I don't remember exactly. So I had a problem in the beginning. So after I realized that I had to use the XT IDE CFG software, it still wasn't finding because this computer is not working stably enough for me to get to that screen. So I'll have to go through that process. I'll like show you that XT IDE screen because I would have just gave up on all this IBM stuff if I didn't get this working. If I didn't get the XT IDE working. So we'll put an earmark in that, and we'll come back to that. But that's a pivotal thing to kind of understand. It's not complicated. It's just you need to figure out how to flash this to get it to work. XT IDE in general. So if you're not going to get one of the ready-made cards, whatever, that probably already had the firmware loaded onto it, you need to do what eventually I'll talk about. But this computer is not running well enough yet. So the XT IDE card here, VGA, and the IDE card is really all you need, other than the drives and things. So this has flash, like I said, flash floppy and the CF card, and then that's it. I mean, you plug the keyboard in. So we got the VGA plugged in. Let me plug in the power. And then plug in the keyboard. I'm just using a AT to PS2 keyboard connector thing. Got my Dell Quiet Key, which I enjoy. Pretty cheap on eBay. Sound right. Feel okay. Okay, so let's get the TV on. Let's switch to HDMI. And then we'll switch here. And we'll give it a boot. So this is going through the 4K, the RetroSync 4K. So this first part is going to be okay, although it's kind of freaking out already. And you'll notice it has total memory of 1,000, so it has the 1 megabyte. But you'll also see it says base RAM, 640K. So that's the base RAM I was talking about. But then there's the extended RAM. So I don't necessarily know, and that's the 384 to get to 1024. But I don't know if the original IBM AT had extended RAM or not. That's a question I have. Okay, so now we press F. So this is kind of like I was saying. There was in the original IBM PCs there was no BIOS, right? You had to load a program. You had to load a disk. But with these clone PCs or with that quad-tel BIOS, there is a integrated setup thing. So every time, because there's no battery in this right now, every time I boot this computer, I have to do this. But really, the only thing I have to configure, I don't ever bother with the time because it gets messed up anyways. But I just changed the disk drive here for flash floppy. I just put it on the maximum 1.4 megabyte. There's no B drive. But look, this is kind of freaking out down here, isn't it? So this is not a CGA card, but there's no way to change it. CG VGA. So this makes me think that there's some problem with like the character ROM or something. So right away, this should say VGA, because it said that before, and now it's just derping out. So yeah, but whatever. I can't change it because it auto. Actually, can I? Oh yeah, see, it auto sets it. Can I get it to? All right, let's go with VGA. Sure. CG VGA 0. I don't know what that means. Okay. So then we just exit. Really, all I needed to do was set that floppy. It should have automatically set the VGA. So this is what happens with this ATI card. It basically boot loops now. I guess some things to note is this is the turbo button on this machine. It operates like people think the turbo button should be, and that's basically when you push the button in for turbo, it runs at the full clock speed, so the full 12 megahertz. Right now it's running at just the 8 megahertz, which is the slow unturboed speed. And eventually it just borks like this. So you saw it was like half the characters were displaying, and then it eventually stops rebooting. I don't think, at this point, I don't think that there's a problem with the computer itself, other than the fact that it doesn't have a BIOS battery. But I was using this ATI card before I was using it. You could see a tweet where I was playing that Mickey Mouse game with my son. I was using this computer, but I realized that I was also not using the turbo mode. So I engaged the turbo mode, and that's when all hell broke loose. So I pressed it while we were playing that game, that Mickey Mouse game, and it threw an immediate error, and it froze the computer. So I feel like there's something either wrong with the computer. There might be something wrong with the actual computer itself, or something wrong with the graphics card. Excuse me. So now I'm going to swap out. I just took out the ATI VGA card, and I'm going to put the Sang card in. So this one will actually get a little bit further. And once we go into the BIOS and change that crap again. But this one acts a little more normally until we get into games. Just trying to, okay. And now we go back. Base RAM and PC is max 640K. Anything over 640K is known as extended. Even 30 years later, anything over 640K is extended. Well, I think it's technically different on modern CPUs or modern platforms, because they kind of, memory addresses is sort of, it's obfuscated from the actual system or whatever, like the operating system. So yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, so let's go back to the capture, and we'll try it again. So just for ha-has, actually, I'm gonna press. You can't see me doing this, but I'm pressing the turbo button in, or like it's a toggle switch. So we're in 12 megahertz mode now. I forgot to do that before, but you can see it boots. It goes crazy, but it's gonna yell at us about the BIOS stuff. So we go into the BIOS. I memorize what numbers it is. Go here, hit 4. Oops, 4. Uh-oh. I noticed if you type in bad things or like wrong numbers or input things, it'll break the BIOS program. So you actually have to restart it. The BIOS program, maybe that's a symptom. I don't know. But sometimes I have to restart after it. If I type like it expected 1 through 4 on that menu I was just on, and I hit 5, and it just didn't like that. So I think that's just a bug with the BIOS program. So go here. Now we hit 4, not 5, 4. And you'll see now it says VGA here. Before it was just freaking out CGA, right? So yeah. Yeah, so then we go like this. And now we're gonna get all the way to, so it's not doing the weird half-height character thing. Oh, you'll see this is the XT IDE. BIOS kicked in. Memory location D800 is what I used. I think you can, there's a little bit of flexibility there, but now we're in DOS. So this is actually 6.2, I think 6.11, whatever the latest 6X version of DOS is. Now, this DOS version 6 is probably newer, a lot newer. Like, it's the wrong DOS to be on this machine. It probably should be on 3.3. However, with DOS 3.3, you don't get cool things like, so like let's go to I have check it installed on here. So like if I change directories, so I have this utils folder on DOS 3.3, it would not tell you what directory you were in unless you type dir. So you could type dir and it would tell you where you are, but it doesn't show you on the screen there, so I like the newer DOS for that. I've heard something like DOS takes up more memory. The later DOSes take up more memory. So, you know, I don't necessarily care. All I'm doing is loading games from DOS, so it's not like, but yeah. And I have, actually working with a computer that only runs DOS and not Windows is kind of, it's kind of neat. I think you probably could run Windows 2. I know you definitely could probably run Windows 2 on this. I don't know how well Windows 3 or 3.1 would run. But we can. I wanted the whole point of me building this. I wanted to see if it was possible, like how it would run on a 286. But it's really meant for 386 and later, Windows 3, I think. So let's run check it, just so that you can see the speed and that it's actually stable. I mean, I don't know what portion of the computer is causing this issue. Like, I don't think it's the CPU or the motherboard, really. So we're running at the full, whatever, 11.96 megahertz, so 12 megahertz. It's got the math coprocessor in there. So this is 8 times faster than the XT and 80 times faster in the math department. So it's running, and then there's a memory. Locate RAM chips. Sure. What does this do? Simple. Advance. What? What is this even doing? Change? Incomplete. Okay, well, all right, I'm out of here. This is whack. No, I ran this memory test. I ran it for a bit. I'm not going to run it now because it's kind of slow. But I ran it for a while and it didn't. Nothing failed ever. Well, actually, I didn't run it. Maybe I'll try to like run it longer. But I'm not necessarily sure if. Oh, okay. Type ver. So let's check it. The system it works. So yeah, that's why I'm like, why is this not working? So you type ver and you get the version of DOS. Okay, 6.22. Yep. I ran Windows 3 on a 286. 3.1 needs a 386. Yeah, okay. So I'm I bought a 386 motherboard. So maybe we'll have to circle back to that after. I don't know if that means upgrading this to a 386, this whole computer. Maybe. I don't really have extra AT cases, and if you look on eBay for AT cases, they're very expensive. And it's kind of sad. And some of them are like in crap shape, and like, here's your rust bucket, like half rusted AT case. It's not like super great. And then it's like, oh, I want $200 for it. Like, oh, really? I know what I have. I have a rusted AT case and I want $200 for it. Like, it's a scam. Okay, so, but now if we go back out of here, oops, and we go into, so, what's a game? So like I have Commander Keen 1. Oh, Ken 1. which runs pretty well on here. I was using the joystick port, and it runs well with that Gravis Gamepad Pro. But look, you can see how it kind of has weird graphics, and it freaks out, right? Like it's trying. So something is wrong with this board also. Oh, I forgot to mention. Well, there was another card. So hopefully this is not stressing anybody out, but like, I mean, it runs. It has the PC speaker sound. It runs all right, but this is not playable. But it doesn't crash, right? So I don't know if this is an indication of something else that might be wrong with the computer. Like maybe it's not just the graphics card that's wrong. Maybe it's also RAM or something, like the system RAM. Like this runs well enough. Like it's not terrible. But I'll get back and get out of this in case anybody doesn't like it. And then like we can try. I have an Oregon Trail. So I also had this. So along with another card that was in this AT, this clone, I mean, was this bad boy, and I'm kind of disappointed. So this is a Sound Blaster 2.0 they call it. They had a bunch of different revisions, but you know it's got a game port, kind of cool volume thing. It has this is the volume or the output. There's a mic input and a line input. So this is a Sound Blaster card, and it is compatible with this era. Like you don't need drivers or anything. It only kind of operates with games that expect a Sound Blaster to be in the computer already, so you don't need to mess around with DOS or anything. It's kind of like AdLib in that way, if you have just the Sound Blaster. But the problem is this Sound Blaster is also something's wrong with it. Also, it has bad output. It was working a little bit, so maybe it's something wrong with the computer itself that's causing problems with this. But I tried it toward the end of when I was kind of getting fed up with the state of this machine, and it was just had this constant like high-pitched sound that I couldn't turn it on. I couldn't make it go away. So I don't know. Do I have a real PC monitor with a VGA port in case it's a RetroTink 4K problem with nothing with the video card? Interesting. I do. I actually have one in my room. The room here. It has unfortunately has a DVI plug. It doesn't have the VGA port in, but I can, for the sake of science, I can put the VGA cable in. I didn't even think about that. I have thought I had problems with the RetroTink 4K with other things related to VGA, but every time I thought it was a problem with the 4K, with the exception of the composite video on CGA output. So like I said, the CGA card has a composite video port, but it doesn't like the composite video from that. So the way I was able to get around that is to use the composite video from the CGA card into a RetroTink 2X Mini, and then from that, the HDMI output from that into the HDMI input of the 4K, which is super jank. But that was a way that I was able to get it to stream it. But there's other projects that let you convert because CGA output is not true RGB. It's like a digital RGB. It's not really compatible with RGB that we know it. I mean, it's the same kind of concept, but it's a digital from 0 to 1 kind of thing. All right, let's this might be hard for you guys to see, but like I have it. Actually, what am I doing? Because that's going to be kind of terrible to look at. Go down, stupid thing. Okay. Sorry, I'm just monkeying around. Okay, there we go. now we can go. Yeah. Okay, let's try it. So. Oh, actually, let's try. There's stupid copy protection in this game. Oh. Ooh, listen to that PC sound. Kind of slaps. But yeah, you can see the artifacting here too. Then there's copy protection. You have to guess, or you must have to look in the manual or something and find out which Mickey, because you can change the Mickey that you can select here. Look how much effort they put into copy protection. Sorry if the game is kind of washing out my voice, but isn't that insane? So let's try to guess the number. Nope. Now I gotta find Mickey 24. Which one's Mickey 24? Nope. Which one's Mickey 41? Wrong. And then it kicks you out if you guess wrong 3 times in a row. So I wish I had the original. Oh, actually, I looked on eBay. There's a copy for $60. You can get this game, but yeah, stupid Disney. So that's kind of fun. So I ordered a different VGA card. I just got a cheap one because I'm not sure at this point that it's actually the VGA cards. But as you can see, there's something up here, and I don't know at this point if it's the memory on the board. Is it the memory on the VGA cards? Because each of those VGA cards has banks of similar RAM to the board itself. You just need to get the right speed, the access time. So in theory, I could try swapping all these out, but yeah, I don't know. Not really sure what to try. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm a little discouraged. I really wanted to be able to play, you know. I think that this is like a quintessential sort of DOS era, right? It's not, you're not, with older or faster computers, you're kind of, even like Pentium class, you know, 100 megahertz or something, you're kind of, you could play faster games and stuff, right? But when you're limited by the CPU, it's like, what games were appropriate to play on this machine, or what games, you know, I don't know, what was contemporary, what were people playing then? Not really, let me turn my OLED off. So that's it, but let's talk about some projects that I'm interested in doing. Yeah, going forward, I suppose. Are there dip switches? There are on the Sang card. Let me see. Oh, you think maybe it's not configured right? I didn't touch it, and supposedly that card was working. That was the card that was working in the original motherboard. The ATI card, nope, no dips, no jumpers. Yeah, no jumpers on that. I don't think there were any on this. I don't remember seeing any. And it's not really hot. I mean, are these crystals? I think these are crystals up here. These shiny guys. No. Oh, there's a jumper on this one. Should I try it? There are dips on the back. Oh yeah, look at that. There are dips on the back of this one. I didn't even think of that. What the heck? There are no dips on the back of the it's a ATI Wonder 16. There was ATI Wonder cars, but this is a 16 ATI Wonder 16 specifically. So let me look up this. I don't even know how to spell it. Sang Labs ET3000AX. Oh yeah, look at that. I already searched for it. See if we can find a manual or something. Maybe that helps us. I wonder if it has to do with the speed of the processor. However, if that's the case, then it would have been working in 8 megahertz mode, and it doesn't. It also does the same artifacting. So, yeah. Let's look. Ugh, this is an article. I don't want to read this. ET1000. Oh, we might be able to find a picture of the card itself, though. 1984. Okay, this was later. There's no date codes. Oh, 89. So we gotta go to 89. So that might have been when this card was, or this computer was made, built, or bought. I mean, it was 89. It doesn't look like this. Oh, what is the chip again? 3000. So is there a 3000 series? Here it is. ET3000AX. So it's this one here. Speed 50 megahertz. BIOS date's 90. So I have an older BIOS than this one. So yeah, the VGA is kind of backwards compatible with EGA, CGA. Well, I don't know if you'd want to run it in MDA mode, but yeah. Oh, I wonder if there's a way to configure what resolution it runs at. With a capacity of up to 512K. So I have extra RAM chips from the original board that, thankfully, all the RAM is far enough away from the corrosion of the original motherboard where I have a full 1 megabyte of these 256K chips. So I don't have. There's half on these cards. Half of the RAM is pre-soldered, or here. Half the RAM is pre-soldered. Half of it is in slots, and the soldered on kind, I think. I don't see it. I can't really get mag 46710. I don't know what that means. I think these are 64K chips. Yeah, I don't know. But whereas I don't know. So I don't know if it's compatible. I have this memory that should fit. But actually, it might not be fast enough because this is 12 or 120 nanoseconds, whereas when it's a -10, I think that means 100 nanoseconds, which is faster than the 120. So these may not be compatible with the graphics card. But let's keep reading. Most cards have a digital TTL D-sub. Okay, yep, that's CGA stuff. Plus the VGA analog 15-pin D-sub, as well as an option connector on the top. Option connector? Is that this? This is like, it looks kind of like a floppy connector at the top. I always wondered what this was. Is this a floppy controller? I would guess NEC Multisync XL on, off, off, off. Oh, wait, so you have to match it with the computer? How did you find the, you found a, oh yeah, look at that, user manual. Oh, okay, so these are all brands. I don't know, I don't see another brand name. Let me see if I can find the, a brand or anything? Are any of these? To the Max, aka VGA 16. Are any of these designs? Okay, so not this. To the Max. Wow, look at that. I see MS Plus. Is that an option? Q-Tech VGA 10. Okay, Optima. Nope. PureTech VGA Ultra. Nope. Sigma. Let's check this one. Does it look like that? Nope. Oh. No, it's a different layout than this board. No picture. Great. What are the jumpers set to now? Yeah, J1. 1 is up and 4 is up, and the other ones are down. Yeah, up, down, down, up. Yeah, can't really see. Sorry, but and this camera sucks. It doesn't focus well, but yeah. I wish I knew the brand. That'd be cool. This is unbelievable how much these things cost. Like this card is $450 for this. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean at the time that would have been sweet. Like hey, I can play Mickey's ABCs in 16 colors. Hell yeah. Or 256 colors, whatever CGA or EGA was. All right, let's just look at. Oh, here's some more images here. Nope, doesn't look like that. I'm just curious if I can nail what the thing is. It has all the pins populated too, which is that's not super usual usually. It's up on. I think so. Usually the orientation is like if you can read the lettering, that's usually the right way up, and then up is on and down is off usually. Well, not usually, but yeah, you know what I mean. I'm gonna guess that that's on. What are you looking at, Leon? Can you post it? One of these bad boys here. On, off, on equals CGA. Off, on, off equals EGA. But that's weird how it was detecting it as VGA in the BIOS. So maybe the BIOS is, oh, here we go. Guide to switch settings. Here we go. Okay. Primary display attached to the Q-Tech VGA board. IBM AT. Oh, that's a monitor. Okay, so if you are attached to that specific monitor, it should be on, off. Well, that's for this other card, which is not the same as this card. I did, but URLs are not passing through. Oh, okay. You can just message me on Twitter or something. I think my DMs are open. Multi-syncing variable frequency analog monitor, all off. Well, it's neither of those. Oh, here we go. EGA config. All right, let's see if I can find the config that I have. So it's on, off, on is what I've got. So let me see if I can find. Oh, use this table if you want EGA mode as an automatic default mode when you power on your system. In this configuration, Q-Tech VGA 1024 is a primary video adapter attached to a digital display via 9-pin. Okay, no, that's not what I want. Because that would be like if you want to control what the other port does. I think VGA might have some automagic stuff. Off. Try that. Okay. All right, just remember, I'm going to put it back at the end. Just remember that I have on, off, on. You really think that the config stuff would mess with that? Maybe. All right, let's try it. I'll keep the NEC monitor, I guess, just for ha-has. NEC monitors in right now. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, it looks different. It looks like it's in 80 column mode. Okay. Okay, so this is VGA though. Ready? All right. Huh? I think it might have froze. Oh, it's off the screen. Jeez, hold on a minute. What the heck is this even? This screen is terrible. Okay, auto adjust. Okay, well, my the text is gone. Oh, here we go. Found it. It's a hack. Just enter a bunch. All right, let's look what Commander Keen looks like. What was that supposed to do, Leon? What do you think that was supposed to do? I didn't get that far. Okay, here we go. VGA is primary adapter. Out of range. Uh-oh. Is that just to set it to run at a higher resolution? Oh, here we go. So I don't think that worked, and I think it's either too high of resolution or something weird. But this is the original config. I'm not sure if this manual applies to this card, but yeah. So this is what it was, right? On, off, off, on. So this is in the VGA settings. VGA is primary. Oh wait. Oh, never mind. That's something. I think all these things might just have to do with the CGA ports, but this is what it was set to: on, off, off, on. And that makes sense if it matches IBM 5153. Multi-sync up to 1024.768. Okay. Off, off, on. Oh, that's cool. So you can set the column mode. Back to the, oh, yeah, maybe, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, maybe the RetroTink will work on it now. I guess I'm glad that we picked a game that doesn't make sound in the beginning. All right, game capture. Oh, no. It's borked still. Okay, so it is a higher resolution. That's kind of cool, but it like letterboxes it. Or adds a border. Yeah. I don't know if that means it's, I don't know. Oh, I do, let me see. I could try putting the graphics card in my gateway. I'm just trying to see if my gateways, oh yeah, I have three 16-bit ISA slots in my gateway. Should I try taking the PCI graphics card out and putting at least this one that has these weird issues in the gateway? Because that would be definitive about whether or not it's a card problem or the computer. Let's do that while we have a couple of minutes, although that's kind of annoying. Yeah, it could be bad RAM on the card. Yeah, well, I mean, that's an easier fix. Well, not, oh, I mean, an even easier fix would be if it was bad RAM on the motherboard, because that's just socketed. But I could easily desolder and I wonder, maybe I should try swapping, well, maybe both of the RAM is bad. One thing I kind of read, I don't know how true it is, but American manufactured RAM is not as good, I guess, in that time period. I mean, that sort of makes sense, but these are this is the ATI card. These are all Texas Instruments, which is United States, but on the old corroded board, it had all Samsung Korean chips. But these are all 256. I don't know if you can you put 512? Actually, let me look that up, because I could easily just desolder the ATI card, all the RAM here. Like if it's a problem with the RAM on, I feel like it's not with this ATI card. I feel like it's something to do with the character ROM, right? Because it has a character ROM, but it's like doing weird half height stuff. But could a card like that? Well, it makes me think that it's some other issue, because it's physically restarting the computer over and over again. So like something that's coming out of the bus here the computer doesn't like it, and it keeps restarting. So that's why I feel like it's not just the RAM on this one, but it could be just the RAM on the other one. The person who tested it might have only, yeah, right. If you load it in DOS, you would never know. If you could see the command, the text, you'd have to boot into a game. which I have on the machine, on this machine. So I'll probably do that offline. I'll probably plug in the Sang Labs card into the gateway and get into a game. Actually, I don't know if Windows might freak out, but you know, that'll be a good test to see how Windows handles it, to see if it's still happening there. If it's happening on a different computer, then I know it's the card and not the computer. But it kind of makes me think that it's both of the cards are wrong and broken in different ways, because on Twitter I posted, because I was having problems also once I get past DOS, like once I got into games, on the IBM as well. So I have a CRT, so I was using the CGA card, no problem, right, with the composite output, and I was playing Oregon Trail or whatever, but I don't think I tested it with the VGA card in games on the IBM. But the IBM was it would crash. Oh no, I did. It would crash, like in games it would just crash. So that's why I think there's something else is wrong on broken on the ATI card besides just the RAM. But the other, I didn't try the Sang Labs card because I didn't have it at the time. So if I tried the ATI card in different, I tried all the ISA slots. Yeah, some motherboards forced IRQ to specific slots. Well, I'll look at the motherboards. That is a what did I call it? A DTK PTM. Oh, this guy. Maybe I didn't even think of that. Obtaining 12 megahertz turbo mode. I didn't even read this, to be honest. I should have gone through this manual after it stopped working. RAM banks, ROM bank, expansion slots, parallel port. Okay. Let's get to, I don't think any of these settings do anything. All right, let's get, what is that? Let's see, display adapter settings, page 8. 6, 8. Jumper 11 is used to select a display adapter to find jumper 11, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's just color and monochrome. Yeah. What 1 weight / 0 weight states. I don't know what that means. Okay. Under typical conditions, your system unit will have all the indicators and switches shown below, and preferably even a reset switch, a turbo hardware switch, and a turbo LED. Oh. I don't see anything else really about the jumpers. Turbo hardware. Oh, this is just the pinouts of the spots where you plug the switches into. Doesn't really have any jumpers. There's no jumper settings for that, unfortunately. I don't know what this means. What is the difference between what? What is 1 weight versus 0 weight? The main advantage of the PTM 1230C 12 megahertz 0 weight mini 80 whatever mainboard over ordinary PC-AT mainboards is its dual clock system. This innovation makes it possible for your computer to operate at either the 2 clock speeds, 8 megahertz or 12 megahertz. In the 12 megahertz turbo mode, your computer will operate up to 195% faster than a conventional 286 computer. Another special feature of the mainboard is a 0 weight / 1 weight option. In 0 weight, your computer will be around 195% faster than an IBM AT
PC AT computer. In one wait state, operation will be around 80% faster. What the hell does that mean? That just means you have to use faster RAM. So if I got this 80 nanosecond RAM, I could run it at 16 megahertz. Huh. I should have looked at that. To select the normal/turbo and 1 wait/0 wait options, refer to the following instructions. So this actually might be, maybe this is part of the problem. Mainboard supports. You know what? I'll look through this. This is good. Good for me to go through. I don't know what the heck 1 wait versus 0 wait. Maybe it's misconfigured, or maybe there's some corrosion that's messing with these jumper settings or something. What is happening back here? Oh, it's still going. Okay. Oops. All right. Whatever. Just turn it off. All right. Yeah. So I'm almost finished, but I want to talk about some projects going forward. So other than obviously trying to get the 286 to work, so I got a new VGA card coming, and I can also mess around with the RAM stuff while I've got RAM available to solder and whatever. So that's that. So I'm so close to having a stable it's one thing to have the IBM AT, but it's 8 megahertz. I would like to have the clone working at 12 megahertz because I think that would be good in games, beneficial in games. I tried to play Stunts. It's like a kind of pseudo 3D like driving game where you can go off ramps and stuff, and it ran terribly with the CGA card and at 8 megahertz. So Commander Keen doesn't have a setup program to make sure you're running in VGA mode. It auto detects VGA mode. I can see if there's a initialized page, but it was working fine before without having to do that. I would just run Commander Keen and it would run. All right, so there's a couple projects that with this particular stream is not sponsored by PCBWay, but using PCBWay's help, I want to order some of these boards and populate them and work on them. So I think the first project that I'm going to work on, that I would like to work on, is this RGB to HDMI. Oh, not this particular one, actually. Let me actually Google it. This one. Yeah. Well, it's available to buy, but I want to build it myself, so. But it's available here on Retro Hack Shack. It's basically a Raspberry Pi Zero hat, kind of, that it does the conversion with a second adapter. So there's also a TTL adapter that you need, this buffer board thing, because the digital RGB that comes out of CGA and EGA is TTL voltage, not normal analog attenuated voltage at all. So it's completely not compatible with, you can't just wire up a new plug and get it to work with the screen. You have to use a project. Well, so some people have made, there used to be a project that is like, they would rather you do this RGB to HDMI because it's kind of a digital to digital, because this RGB, it's called RGBI, is that digital CGA output. And I've seen people use discrete logic to convert that to, not logic, but discrete components to convert that to VGA. So I've seen boards like that before. 'Cause, it's all up to like resistor values and just getting it to the proper VGA. I will. I'll put it back. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know. So this I think is number one, because I would be able to use the CGA card if I have this RGB to HDMI. So it basically converts that CGA or EGA signal, if you've got the 9-pin connector or 9-pin output, to HDMI, and then I can just run that through the RetroTink, RetroTink 4K. So I think this would be really handy because I have, not only do I have the CGA card, if I ever get a real EGA card, expanded or something graphics, enhanced graphics adapter, which is the name of the card. Like, so I always thought like, oh, those are CGA and EGA are like kind of like standards. I mean, they kind of are, but like it's called CGA because it's a color graphics adapter, which is named after the card, the actual physical card, and same with the enhanced graphics thing. So I thought that's kind of fascinating. So I want to be able to use the CGA stuff through the RetroTink. But it's going to be worse graphics. It's only going to be 4 colors. Now, I've heard that this project can actually do that composite artifact 16 color thing somehow. So I'm curious because if this works well, then yeah. But again, you're using a Raspberry Pi Zero. It's not a Raspberry Pi Pico. I kind of wish that somebody would make something that is just smaller. I just kind of feel like shoving a Raspberry Pi Zero on this thing is like, okay. Well, you'll see that actually there's more projects that I have that also use Raspberry Pis. So yeah, getting back to that comment of that guy who's like, oh, there's more compute power in that Raspberry Pi than there is in the whole computer, which, whatever. So this is the first thing, is to get this, build this adapter. So this is what I'll have to order some parts, source the BOM and things. Just a side note, if you don't want to build your own, so you can either buy, so you've got to buy both in order to connect CGA cards or like IBM specific stuff, because this project also works with other computer parts. So like Apple computers, Amiga stuff, they have different like little daughter board connector things. But this base unit, so you need the base unit. I can't, this is ridiculous. Why would you do this? There we go. So you need the base unit thing here. And then you got to build this TTL buffer, this buffer thing that connects to your CGA. God, here, yeah, CGA thing. So that's the first project I want to work on. But there's also this other different one. This is closed source. This is built by this TechSelect company, which is the company that's building the Commander X16 motherboards. I think they designed and are selling the Commander X16 through here. But they used that project, that RGB to HDMI project, but they made their own like adapter board, so it's all in one kind of, so you can input CGA, EGA into this, and so you don't need both things, but it's more expensive. It's almost twice as expensive. So that's why I'm kind of like, I get it. I get that they're trying to make money, but it's like, I don't know. It just feels bad, man. But, it is what it is. I wish I could build this version because I would much rather have like an all-in-one thing, but yeah, I don't know. Commander Keen doesn't run on a Pi Zero. Yeah. Oh, actually, I don't know. Do you know it doesn't? It could run on a Pi Zero. So that was the first project. The second project, and it's kind of funny that I'm talking about this project now instead of or when we're in the midst of the great power supply debates of 2023/24. So I'm using actually in this, the power supply in the gateway was dead when I got it. So, but thankfully it has mounting holes for ATX power supplies, which is not usual. Usually with stuff like the Clone 286 or the IBM PC, they have it's AT form factor, but it's not like a standardized, like every different case, like they can make their own form factor for the AT power supply. Even the stuff inside it's not standard at all. Like the layout is not at all really standard. Other than with AT, you can guarantee, like there's always a hard button, like a button that's hardwired into the power supply because there's no soft power. So that's one thing that it always has that feature. So this first project here is this ATX4 VC, which is vintage computers. It is literally a replacement. So first of all, you use a Pico PSU. So Pico PSU, it looks like it's this part on the left here. So it plugs into the ATX connector here. So it plugs in over here, but it all it is like it adapts a like 12 volt DC like laptop, like a external power brick. So you plug in DC voltage into this thing, and then it spits out all the AT voltages. Well, this is the Pico PSU is an ATX one, so it doesn't have the -5 volts, But this project, this ATX4 VC, gives you the negative 5-volt rail also. So it has some kind of a voltage regulator on it. So you get the negative 5 volts. You know, I don't. That's not super required. Like the gateway doesn't need it at all. It has to do with the negative 5 volts is good for different ISA cards, I guess. I don't know. There's some ones that need it. So, anyways, this is kind of a generic adapter, right? But with some 3D printing, you know, this person, whoever took this photo, they like must have used some plastic card stock or something to make a little bracket. But I could easily 3D print something, right, that fits where the original board was. So like, let's say this was the original board, which is absolutely disgusting on this picture. But you know, the 4 mounting holes, I could just make a bracket and then float this board in the middle, and then I have to get a Pico PSU and the power brick, and then it allows you to wire into the original switch, the AT switch. So what's cool about the clone computer and the IBM one is even better. It has this really satisfying power switch. It's like a huge toggle switch. It is very fun to like. That's probably the most fun I've ever had with a power button. It's this big. This guy here. Ready? Just very satisfying. So with this project, basically you could take out all the guts of the power supply itself, but it would look on the outside like a AT power supply, with the exception of obviously you don't plug in the 120 volts. You plug in your laptop or the 12 volt or whatever it is power supply adapter thing. So I could easily 3D print the bracket to mount it in the power supply if I ever wanted to. It seems interesting, and I know these power supplies are not going to last forever. And I actually have a different AT power supply for the gateway that was dead. So maybe I can gut that one and I don't know, just something for fun. But then you kind of just desolder the wires from the original power supply here, this mess over here, and you solder them to the rails inside here. And then from the outside, it just kind of looks like a normal PC. Now, I sort of wish they made modern AT cases, because cases are super expensive. So that's like the fat version, like the full version of this ATX power supply thing. But there are computer-specific versions of it. And it's also by the same person. So it's this Deku Nukem. And maybe this sounds familiar because this person also built this, which is another project I want to get into, but we'll get back to this. They're also the person that built this USB 4 VC, which is the thing that LGR made a video about, where you can plug in USB and modern controllers, and it gives you a whole bunch of stuff for different computers. Like you have different base plates that you swap out. But as far as an IBM PC goes, you could have AT keyboard or PS2 keyboard. So either one of those, or actually, it might just be PS2, because PS2 you can pretty easily adapt to AT anyways. But you could either do PS2 mouse or serial mouse. So older machines need serial mouse. So I think this is a very handy thing. Plus, you can use a modern. Does it support Bluetooth? It might just be USB. That'd be sick if it supported Bluetooth. Although I guess you could easily. Oh, it does. Look. Excuse me. So yeah, you could play with wireless controllers. So. Anyways, I think this is neat, and I think it will help my situation where I have just tons of crap everywhere, and I don't particularly need this. The reason I haven't been doing retro console stuff is because my entire room essentially has just been filled with computers. Like I have computers everywhere now, and I don't want that. I don't want, as much as I like this gateway or this Dell Quiet Key keyboard, I don't really want it to be there anymore. So if I can have like a wireless keyboard and mouse, actually, if I had a wireless keyboard and mouse, I could use that computer over here. From over here, because I can display whatever displays on that monitor, the LCD, the OLED. I can display it over here, so I could be playing games and stuff over here. So that'd be cool. Yeah, so that's project number 3. But back to project number 2B. I don't know. So it's sort of similar to the ATX, the power supply project, and it's by the same person. But these are like computer-specific power solutions. So if you didn't want to go the whole 9 yards of gutting the IBM or an AT power supply for an IBM computer, you can get this bracket. So it takes up a bracket. It takes up a slot. It doesn't plug into the ISA slot, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't plug into the ISA slot. Actually, does it? It looks like it kind of might. I wish they would show the back of the card. Look, see what? It actually might plug directly into the ISA slot, and I didn't think about that. I mean, not like it's a bad thing. It's just I was kind of wondering where all the connections had to be made to the motherboard, but I see there aren't any here. Like this is where you normally would plug in the AT power supply connections, but I don't see that at all. So, and I think this would be for your Molex power. So like your drive power would come from this. So anyways, this is kind of a cheat code because you could get rid of the power supply. Although you probably just want to replace that with a fan because I think this thing has a built-in fan header. Yep, PC fan header. So that may be a smart thing to do is just completely get rid of, it's a good weight savings too. So you could take out the power supply, which takes up, like a fifth of that computer in weight probably, and just use this. But it's the same situation, so it's kind of cool. On the back of the card is a power switch if you didn't want to gut the power supply, and it has the jack to connect the Pico PSU power supply, the barrel jack for the wall adapter. So it's kind of like an all-in-one specific for the IBM machine. Or I guess clones, anything that uses an AT power supply. So most AT or IBM clone or compatibles, like even probably the gateway here. I mean, it only goes up. I think the max Pico PSU you can get, or the power supply for a Pico PSU, is 190 watts. But I think that's plenty. I think this computer originally had 200 watts, the gateway, and I think the IBM is also 200 watts. So you're not talking about a lot of power. So kind of fun project that, and cheaper than trying to source a well or a good AT power supply. So that's kind of a cool project. I want to do that. But there's also other versions for, you have to go to their actual Tindy thing here. There's ones for the Macintosh, or at least the Macintosh SE, Apple II, 2 Plus, 2E, 2GS, BBC Micro. Yeah, tons of variations of it for different computers. Apricot PC, I don't know what the heck that is. Osborne. So, yeah, kind of cool project for different computers. So if you can't power it, then you can use this thing. So I would like to get one of these too. That'd be fun. And then obviously the last one that we kind of talked about already was the USB 4 VC, all by the same person. The RGB to HDMI, this version is by TechSelect, but the original RGB to HDMI project is not that guy, but the ATX 4 VC and the USB 4 VC is the same. Duke Nukem, or Deku Nukem, yeah. All right, I know there's a lot of stuff at the end, but just know if you made it this far, I appreciate you coming along with me, I suppose, on this PC journey. I think I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I think that you should, if you're watching this now, if for some reason you're in this chat now, you should get into it, or you should at least look into it. Maybe you've got some parts lying around at your house. One thing that I would like to look into, and I don't really know if my area is cool with this, is see if you've got any electronic recyclers near you. So if the reason you don't want to get into it is because you don't have any money, or you have limited amount of money, maybe see if you can reach out to in your local area if they've got an electronics recycler, see if, hey, I can, and I don't know if it makes it, I don't know if it changes the situation for them. If you say, hey, I'm just doing this myself, I'm not like trying to flip these parts, they might take some more pity for you, and they might allow things to fall out of the door or whatever, you know what I mean? So something that I was thinking about. I'll have to reach out to my local recycler, but there's stuff out there. I mean, reach out to your family, your extended family, see if anybody has anything. But that's kind of why I'm going down the eBay journey too, is because I originally, this whole thing kind of got kindled when I was watching the LGR 486 build. And to build a 486 right now it's a lot. I mean, it's really not in the scope of consoles, like modded consoles. If you can afford having somebody mod your console or doing it yourself, you can afford retro console stuff. Even the most expensive stuff is like, well, no, not the most expensive stuff. Like, good luck trying to find a Gravis ultrasound for less than like $500. Like, that to me is kind of nuts, and that's why I like the Pico so much, because like that's accessible for most people now. But I hope I inspire you to get looking at PC stuff, and yeah, if you have any questions, I don't know everything. I don't know a lot of things, but I might be able to help you get started, where to look. But watch Phil's Computer Lab, watch LGR, watch Adrian's Digital Basement, and feel the vintage computer stuff. Because I hate, for as much as I like the fact that we're recycling electronics, other than the fact that I think that most electronic recycling stuff probably goes to a third world country. Don't really know, but I just hate to see good computers that are still valuable for gaming, people that in the future might be interested in them, playing old games on original hardware. Same with consoles, you got to save them now, because if you don't save them now, they're gone. Like, that's it. There's no takebacks. So that's why I'm kind of like panic buying things. It's not FOMO, I would say. It's not. You got to look for deals for sure. So I have a problem with spending money. It's not like I spend a lot of money, but you can look for deals for sure. But maybe I should do a stream about that. What I think about how buying stuff. All right. That's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. Next stream. Next stream. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have all the parts, but I'm gonna spoil. I bought a microscope. So if you're watching this, you're one of the. Well, actually, I told my Discord. I shared it on my Discord. I bought a microscope. The reason I bought a microscope in the first place is, and I'm kind of in limbo with this project right now, or this one. I originally wanted to build this PicoGus. So this is the PicoGus 2.0. Not the kind that uses a Raspberry Pi Pico dev board, but the kind that uses the RP2040. So I was cool with that. Like, I think I could probably, with hot air, this lighting is terrible, I'm sorry. The Raspberry 2040, or the Raspberry Pi 2040 solders here. Finally the scope thing, yeah. I think I could probably do this by hand, right? With a hot air gun. So I have no problem with that chip. The problem I have is there are some 0402 components on here, and I don't love that. I kind of wish that this whole board, so you can see there's some 08, 04 chips, or that's a what is that called? FB. Whatever, stupid. There's some chips that are this size, right? That's a normal size for me to hand solder. But then you get these ones over here, that these are all pretty much 0402. So I owe PCBWay a video about this, kind of. I mean, I kind of already satisfied their sponsorship requirement for I built the other version that has the Raspberry Pi Pico dev board that you can solder on here. But I really wanted this one, because this is kind of like, this card is kind of cool. And it didn't have any other board sticking out of it. All the components are soldered onto this one board, so I just thought that was neat. So I have these, and I ordered the bomb, so everything's coming. But I feel like I could use that opportunity to use and practice on a scope. So I bought an AM scope, a pretty expensive AM scope. But I'm also waiting for the camera because if you don't need like if you're not trying to stream it, like I want to actually stream it and I want it to be good quality. So I didn't just get, like you can get binocular scopes, which is just the two eyepieces, so you have binocular vision. But there's also trinocular, which has a camera port. But the one I bought is not just trinocular; it's also semifocal or simulfocal, which means that you could have both. You can use both the binocular vision and the camera at the same time. So that's kind of my ideal setup. So, but I also ordered a camera that goes in the camera port because it didn't come with one from AliExpress. So I got to wait for that first. I could unbox it, I suppose, and I can look through the AM scope, but you guys wouldn't be able to see what I'm looking at until I get the camera. So, yeah, I'm excited about that because that means I could probably go back and actually probably fix the PS2 retro gem. So the state of my fat PS2 retro gem is it's in the case up here. The video quality is fine, but the controller doesn't work. So that means it's the other, like off to the side. There's a second ribbon cable or a second flex cable that you have to solder. So I haven't reopened it since then. I kind of like put it all together and put it aside because I didn't have time, or didn't want to do it just then, fix that issue. So I'll probably have to bust open the PS2 again and try to fix the retro gem. But then I probably also want to do another retro gem from scratch. So I have the PS2 Slim there I could do. I just want to get more experience with the scope. And it may completely replace my overhead camera. I'm not really sure if it will, because the good thing about this, so I have this black frame thing here that allows me to mount my camera. That's how I was taking videos, but my camera lens is not, it doesn't zoom in enough. So I was thinking for the longest time, I could just buy a better lens, or like a more telephoto lens for that camera. But for the cost of the lens, I could have bought a whole scope. And that's what I did. It's actually cheaper than the good lenses. Like, if anybody knows me, I tend not to buy cheap stuff. I tend to buy more expensive stuff that I think it as being more durable or like higher quality. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. It was probably about the same money, and I got some money for Christmas, so it's fine. It was probably less money to get a decked out scope and the camera to stream it than it was to buy the lens. And I already have one piece of the puzzle. This is there's all sorts of bits and stuff that I need to get the AM scope to work, to like adapters and things, or lenses for the camera connector thing. I hope I have everything. I don't even know. But this is a Barlow lens. It's in here somewhere in this box. So this mounts on the underside of the scope, so not on the camera part. But it increases the working distance. So normally I think this AM scope has like a 4-inch focus depth that it likes, and if it's higher than that, it's out of focus or something like that. But with the Barlow lens, it doubles the focus, like the working distance. So I can have the scope physically higher on the desk, so that gives me more room underneath it for stuff. But I don't know if it's wide angle. I don't know. There's a lot of questions I don't know. So I would like to be able to it's time to do some soldering video. Let me just pop the scope up on the table or whatever, put it away or something. And so the Barlow lens allows me to do that. It gives me higher, more. I could put more stuff. I don't know. Like, I'm thinking like an Xbox motherboard is like huge. Like, that's worst case scenario pretty much. Or maybe like now there's motherboards, these AT motherboards. But yeah, so yeah, I'm excited. It'll be able to fix that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. And for my entire modding career, I've just been doing it with my eyes, so I don't really know. Am I gonna be like Superman now with a scope? So I know we ran way, way long. I had a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, I haven't been here for the last 3 streams I missed. So yeah, but I'm back for a bit. Even if it's just, I think, part of my problem was like I felt bad if I was working on something and then it didn't work. So like I was working on the computer and it didn't work. So and then I was waiting for the chip EEPROM programmer and like that was just the 2-second thing. It was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be to use that. So I just felt bad and I didn't want to stream in a bad mood. So yeah, all the time. So all right, thanks everybody. We'll see you on, I think that the scope comes soon. I think it already shipped. I remember an open source Commander Keen interpreter called Commander Games or Commander Genius. Wonder if that would run on Pi Zero. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Isn't there that meme like Doom runs on everything? So couldn't you run Commander Keen on everything? You could run Doom on a pregnancy test or something stupid. Okay, all right, that's enough. All right, next time you see me, I might unbox the scope. I might wait and but you won't be able to see anything other than the thing. You won't be able to see down the eyepieces because you don't have the camera until I get the camera. So bye everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks Leon for helping me diagnose some things, even though we didn't get it 100%. At least I think it might be a RAM thing, so I got to fix that. So all right, bye everybody. See you later.